Today on Wake Up College Basketball, we give our spring forecast on our brand new North Carolina Gonzaga map. There's cold front here. There's could be cold over there.
Icy nights in 17.
Cold. It's cold. It's
Icy.
time to
Wake up, college basketball.
Welcome to Wake Up College Basketball, presented by 4 Points Travel, reinvented, and for the final time during this lovely tournament. What was that? I dismissed this. What was that?
North Carolina! Raise up!
We don't sing anymore. We cannot afford to pay the licensing fees. But Tyler Tynes, North Carolina, won this tournament.
Sure did.
In,
Told you
I wouldn't say the prettiest way.
Oh, no, it was an ugly game.
But North Carolina is your national champion, and we should congratulate North Carolina. Roy Williams wins his third national championship.
Hashtag elite.
Most definitely elite, behind solid play inside these last couple games against Oregon and Gonzaga from Isaiah Hicks and Kennedy Meeks. And in the totality of these two games, not much else because of Justin Jackson.
Y'all talk so dirty about my son.
I know. Which one of your sons? You have so many sons, Tyler. You have so many.
My large adult son, Isaiah Hicks. Y'all talk so dirty about him. And
I just said they were behind him.
Yet here he was.
Yeah.
Missed his first 4 shots. I mean, that's cool, whatever. You know, wipe the rust off. And 13-9 at the end of the game. My man had a good game. So don't speak dirty of my large adult son, Isaiah Hicks. He became my son just today.
I don't think, especially after seeing basically the rest of the court during this game, there is anything bad to say about Isaiah Hicks. There is not a single thing bad. He and Kennedy Meeks, they don't shoot a ton in this game, but they affect the game defensively. They did a great job both drawing fouls against Zach Collins, who looked good while he was in. Karnowski did basically nothing. He drew fouls and got to the line.
He was real dope.
But from the floor, not all that much. So North Carolina, we talked about this a couple days ago. Who's going to win if this game gets ugly? And I think we both, I mean, I sort of leaned Gonzaga and you leaned North Carolina just because of the play of the bigs.
Sure did.
But it turned ugly. Another game in a football arena that did so.
I mean, maybe we should just stop doing that, y'all. Maybe we should just stop doing that.
Maybe we play basketball games.
Maybe play basketball games in basketball arenas.
What else stood out to you, big picture, about this North Carolina run through the tournament?
I mean, they were an offensive powerhouse the entire tournament, and I think this was the first game where they really weren't, but it really didn't matter because when it mattered, Joel Berry hit you with 22, even though it was on 7-19, and he had a great game. So, I mean, the thing was that there was consistency. They were probably the best team pound for pound all year outside of maybe occasionally a week for Duke, a week for Kentucky here or there, you know, a week for Gonzaga here or there. But
a week for UCLA.
A week for UCLA. But, like, you know, North Carolina was probably the best team coming into the tournament, and they're the best team at the end of the tournament. 6 titles like Jordan.
Yeah, I'll take exception to one point, and offensively in the second half against Oregon, it wasn't great for them either. They didn't hit a field goal those last 6 minutes, but they got the job done in both of these games. And really, if you look at what they had on the court and how consistent or inconsistent they were, a really good coaching job, I would say, from Roy Williams to sort of stay with the guys, sort of stay with the plan, trust the guys to stay in. He didn't panic and start moving guys off the bench. You know, Nate Britt didn't play 34 minutes trying to spark some sort of energy off the bench. And to win with those types of offensive performances these past couple weeks, it's pretty impressive that they were led. So they were out-rebounded tonight by Gonzaga.
Didn't matter.
It didn't ultimately.
Didn't matter. I mean, we had this conversation the other day on the show, and it's very simple. You know what I mean? Like, you think about the guys who haven't been there. You think about the guys who have been there. You think about the guys who have talent in their backyard. You think about the guys who do more with little. Right. And at this point, Roy stuck to his guns as a coach and said, you know what, I'm not going to my bench. We're in a little bit of foul trouble, but I've got who I think is the better point guard. We've got who I think is the better front court man in Justin Jackson. We got what I think is the better bigs. I'm going to let them play. And ultimately, those 3 bigs, Tony, Kennedy Meeks, and Isaiah Hicks, they did so much more, partially because of the foul trouble, than Karnowski and Zach Collins.
And you really like the fact that they put Justin Jackson on Nigel Williams-Goss early. They put the length on their slasher, on their shooter, their most dynamic scorer.
If there was one thing that really changed the flow of the game going to the second half, Gonzaga played a beautiful first half. I mean, they were just a better team in the first half. Coming out into the second half, North Carolina switched and put a wing player on Nigel Williams-Goss, and it changed the entire flow of the game. I think he only got, of those next few minutes outside of the foul, just one bucket driving towards the rim. So that was a big matchup switch that was better for Roy as terms of coaching.
Absolutely. And let's take a look. North Carolina, of course, now as a champion. Here's some quick facts you need to know. Of course, they're 100% not Duke. That is a wonderful thing. We cannot stress that enough. It's here twice, but Roy Williams gets his 3rd title. They're now just a win short of the all-time wins record or tying the record at, I think, 144 in the NCAA tournament, and this is now their 6th national championship. They're now 4-0 in national championship games against fellow #1 seeds, and they're now ahead of Duke. So North Carolina is top of the top, except for a couple other teams. But that's pretty good. That is pretty good. So let's start out with the questions right now. Let's say something nice about this game. What is something nice we can say about what was ultimately a pretty ugly game? Referees got in a lot of cardio. It looked like Odell Beckham Jr. was having a really nice time. Roy Williams' jacket looked great, I thought. Did you like that look?
I mean, it was a good jacket.
It was a good jacket? You were ready. You wanted daggum everything in this going into the game.
I wanted a lot of daggums.
You wanted a lot of those.
I wanted a lot of daggums.
It should be pointed out that multiple times during this game, when Joel Berry had the ball and looked like he was going to take a questionable shot, you were saying, no, 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 he'd hit it. Boom, 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 boom. So there it was. Joel Berry proved some people wrong that thought balls might not be going in, and that's something.
I mean, this game was not pretty
It's
at all.
not great. It was not
Gonzaga
great.
didn't score for 7 minutes because of a lot of different ticky-tacky fouls. I mean, if there's one thing Gonzaga can take away for this into next year, Zach Collins looks probably like a pro.
If he's back, yeah.
He looks like a pro if he comes back. So, I mean, that's a plus. Okay.
Who was the best player in this game? Zach Collins certainly was in that conversation in the limited time he was on the floor. But to you, who affected the game, or who was purely the best player in this game?
Joel Berry was. Joel Berry was the best player in the game because Joel Berry was the only player in the game that could actually consistently score.
Yeah.
He took 19 shots, but he was the only player that found a way to score consistently over the length of the game, even though the game was slowed down so much. So it had to be Joel Berry because nobody else really did much anything. Joel Berry and Isaiah Hicks really led the way for both teams at a certain point.
And it sort of gets lost in everything because Nigel Williams-Goss gets hurt in the Final Four game a little bit, and then obviously at the end of the game he gets hurt in this game, and then of course Karnowski gets scraped across the eyes by, I think it was Chris Silva in the Final Four matchup. But Joel Berry comes into this game hobbled himself with bad ankles coming into the Final Four and carried this team across the finish line.
There were so many shots you just really did not want him to take. But in this kind of game where nobody was scoring, where the fouls were very ticky-tacky, and there was just no momentum offensively for either team.
Guys getting pulled constantly because of foul trouble.
Let your shooter shoot. You know, like Joel Berry was like, listen, this is what we're going to do, and he did it. So at the end of the day, it wasn't a great game. It was an ugly game, but North Carolina still won because the dude who was one of their best players all year, who was one of the best guards they've had in a while, showed up.
Does this game affect how you look at Justin Jackson on the biggest stage, having a particularly down offensive game?
Nah, I mean,
you're still okay.
I think that's the thing that we kind of get lost in sometimes. Like we generally don't know.
Right.
We don't know. You know, Justin Jackson's had a great year. He's been an improved shooter. He's got NBA length. He's been a great defender throughout the entire tournament. He was a great defender tonight on Nigel Williams-Goss. So you take the good with the bad. He had a very, very bad game. He also got a dunk in the last few minutes in a run out. So, I mean, he played a great game in the last 2 minutes when it was the best basketball. The two best players on the floor, Nigel Williams-Goss and Justin Jackson, were playing great basketball. So you take the good with the bad. I don't think you should care that much. I mean, he was the best. He was probably the best forward on the national championship team.
Not bad. That's a good position to be in. Who would you say had the biggest impact outside of Joel Berry? Who had the biggest impact in this game, good or bad?
I think it was Karnowski.
Yeah.
For the fact that just like from the beginning he was just disheveled, and I don't know if it was the fact that they doubled him as soon as he got a post touch. I don't know if it was the fact that they were guarding the post. I don't know if Kennedy Meeks was too much for him. I don't know if it was the fact that they haven't been playing against many taller front courts in the NCAA tournament.
Right.
But his foul trouble plus him missing, I think, the first 3 or 4 shots.
And he doesn't have the excuse of, oh, the depth perception of shooting from distance. No, these are drop steps that he's pulling off and has position and should be putting in some guppies, and they just were not falling. They missed so many shots within 5 feet. I think that's right. I think it's Karnowski, maybe Zach Collins, because he was actually playing well and then got into, of course, foul trouble in the second half and missed a good chunk of the second half before coming in and getting fouled out.
It messes up the entire game plan when you're both of your extremely talented bigs are both in foul trouble.
Right.
So you have to go to a freshman who has, I don't know at least for their roster, but in the tournament has not played that much.
Right.
So you lose a whole chunk of your offense, especially when a wing is guarding your main point guard and your other offensive asset. And then J-Matt wasn't shooting that well. So
this is true.
The entire offense is gone.
They had Josh Perkins in the first half. He cooled off in the second half. And yeah, you're right. When they are not getting anything inside, it allows for players like Justin Jackson to stay with Nigel Williams-Goss. He does not have to help inside. You know, the wings don't have to come in and contribute on defense in the key, and that makes North Carolina's defense that much more effective when the dumb shots aren't falling. So,
and to both credit, the defense on both sides, when the refs weren't in the way, was really good defense.
It was.
So,
everything seemed to be contested. It was very rare. It was Jordan Matthews who banked in the three in the second half.
Williams.
It was Williams. Okay, it was Williams and not Matthews. And outside of that, I mean, if you think about like what were the good offensive possessions in the second half, you were just thinking. There were
many possessions that whittled down to 11 seconds.
Yeah.
They didn't run pick and roll, and it was like, who wants to take the shot?
Forcing shots.
You had Theo Pinson taking like 3 threes this game. That's not really what you want from your man. So
one North Carolina player made a three-pointer. They hit 14% of their threes total, 4 of 27. So Gonzaga outshoots them, but it was everything else. I thought the big stat was how well North Carolina, despite how physical and defensive this game got, they held on to the ball. They protected the ball so much more than Gonzaga. And that, I think, ultimately was the difference. It was like 4 turnovers to like 14. So when you give the ball away, as we saw at the end of the game, that much, it's going to be huge.
It keeps going back to the fact that you cannot play a basketball game.
Yes.
You cannot play a beautiful, beautiful game like this when 7 minutes will go by in a basketball game. Gonzaga gets no buckets because everybody's at the foul line.
Yep.
And then nobody made their foul shots.
Yeah, that's not going to be all that good either. And I had a little bit of PTSD watching North Carolina miss free throws.
This might end up being one of the least memorable championship games that we've seen in a while.
Luckily,
mostly for the fact that we watched a free throw shooting contest for most of the second half.
Luckily, we had Butler UConn in 2011, and that was disgusting. And so, like on that note, how does this North Carolina team, as a squad, as at their best, as we've seen in the tournament, we saw them play really well against, by the way, thank you, Luke May. Thank you so much, Luke May, for that shot over Kentucky.
Luke May a job.
Absolutely. So at North Carolina's best and at their worst, as we saw in this tournament, how does this Tar Heel squad compare to, I guess, the recent 5 or 6 champions we've had? So Kentucky with Anthony Davis and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Russ Smith, Gorgie Jang in Louisville. Who else do we have? We've got Duke and Jahlil Okafor. We have Shabazz Napier and UConn. How does this UNC team rank to you?
Well, I think it's hard to rank them because this, again, it was one of the least memorable games that we're going to have in the last few years, right? But at its peak, North Carolina was one of the best offensive teams in the country all year long. And in the tournament, they showed those same exact sparks. They showed the NBA firepower.
Yeah.
They showed great guard play. They showed how complete of a team they were for so many different times over this NCAA tournament. The problem, though, is that you're going to try to go back and remember the title game, and somebody's going to say a few years from now, remember when North Carolina won in 2017? You're like, nah, fam, I don't.
Won like a 9-6 football game. It was basically what it felt like.
Ugly
with
game.
Field goals and icy and bad defensive. Yeah, it was just, it was so bad.
It didn't feel like we were watching a championship game.
Yeah, this is true. It didn't feel like it at all. Roy Williams, though, we talked about him earlier in terms of the job he's done with this team specifically, and he's had players come back. These are familiar players that he's been able to develop over the years. In your mind, how does Roy Williams compare to the really good coaches that are active and at this point of all time after his 3rd national championship?
Well, as a young son myself, I cannot speak of the past.
Yeah. Let's compare his coaching style to Fog Allen.
I cannot only speak what I know. No, but like of the current coaches we have right now, Roy Williams has always been one of the best coaches in the country.
Right.
Period. That's just what it is. Right now, there's only one man who has more championships than he does.
That's true. Coach K.
So
the only active coach is in the same state.
So as of right now, Roy Williams is number 2.
Do you have, it's a little bit warm in the studio right now, do you have scorching hot takes about the fact that there weren't a ton of one-and-done players in the Final Four? Scorching hot takes that this is the true college basketball experience.
No, I mean, no, that's dumb. That is old newspaper columnist levels of no. No, it was basketball is basketball. You know what I mean? So, like, it doesn't matter whether you have a one and done. It doesn't matter whether you have a great team. You don't get better basketball because you have seniors on your team. The assumption is that you get better basketball because these 18-year-olds aren't playing.
Right.
But for us and the regular fans who just want to watch great basketball, you want to watch dudes like Zion Williamson, who's amazing at the high school level.
Yeah.
You want to watch dudes like Malik Monk. You want to watch the big names because they garner big attention because they get you very, very, very bipartisan crowds to watch your big events. Now, that's of no bonus to the players.
Right.
But at the same time, we want to watch great basketball, right? So it doesn't matter unless that senior laden team is playing great, exciting basketball.
Right.
And I can't remember the last team full of seniors that gave us great, exciting basketball.
This is true, and even when we see a team that generally runs an exciting brand of basketball, even if they're not NBA laden, like the Butler team from 2011, they had Gordon Hayward, who was a legitimate NBA player. I guess that was 2010, but 2011 they ran a good system. Shelvin Mack came up big for them, but even under the bright lights, it doesn't matter. I want to see talent, and we saw a good amount of talent in this tournament, but ultimately, was there a game changer in this Final Four performance-wise? And I don't know if there was.
You come to the NCAA tournament as a casual basketball fan who is not a huge college basketball consumer because you want to see the dudes who are going to take up the next 10 years on your NBA screen. And there's nothing wrong with that, but to the college basketball purists, they would say, hey, we want to watch the guys with these obscure names from the middle of New Jersey that we know nothing about. And that's just not really about the jive with, like, the average fan. We're here to watch good basketball from stars as much as we can get them. And if that's 18-year-olds like Malik Monk who shoot squirrels in their backyards with pellet guns,
Where's he
from?
Where's he from?
Lepanto, Arkansas.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it would have been nice to see De'Aaron Fox match up against a couple of these Final Four teams with Malik Monk if he got going. Lonzo Ball, who I don't even know if he likes playing basketball. The face never changes, but he is so damn talented. It would have been nice to see, Markelle Fultz. It would have been nice to see Washington.
Smith.
It would have, all of these players.
And the other side of that, too, is like, you're only going to complain if you don't have a star freshman if your team is trash.
Right, exactly. The NBA likes the good players, and it's fun to see the good players. Who are you sad to, in your own sort of mental one shining moment? Who are the players, the moments, the situations that you're going to miss from this tournament?
I'm going to miss watching Malik Monk play basketball.
Yep.
I mean, one of the biggest reasons I watched a lot of college basketball this year was to watch Malik Monk play basketball. I'm going to miss not seeing Dennis Smith play basketball. I'm going to miss LeVar and Lonzo Ball, except I'm going to get them next year.
You are going to get plenty of the Ball family.
But yeah, I mean, again, we come to watch stars play basketball at the college basketball rank. If they're seniors, that's dope. If they're not, because they usually ain't, that's also dope. But, like, it's going to suck that we're not going to be able to see a lot of these dudes that we wanted to see because these dudes who are going to be one and dones, who are high-level talent, top 10 picks, Jonathan Isaac, guys like those, y'all didn't make it to the Final Four.
This is true. I'm going to miss Derek Malone Jr. I liked watching him from Michigan. I'm going to miss my Oregon Ducks. I'm going to miss you. This is the first time I've allowed you to say any name that you wanted, and you've had the opportunity to say Sindarius Thornwell, and you chose not to.
Nope.
Which I'm thinking we're growing as a show. I'm thinking we are getting to a platform that is just like we can go in so many directions, and he doesn't have to talk about Sindarius Thornwell.
My large adult son, Sindarius Thornwell.
So many large adult sons.
An NBA draft pick.
I
That's
agree.
what he deserves.
I agree.
But, we going to see him get one. They're going to say he's too old.
I liked watching, albeit briefly, the Oklahoma State offense. Juwan Evans.
Juwan Evans.
I would have loved to have seen more of Juwan Evans.
You're not going to.
But we got to see Evans against Derek Malone, and that's a little bit. That's something. So basically, I think it was an entertaining tournament. I think there were enough moments to feel like the South Carolina and Frank Martin story was great. Undeniably, it had to be great.
I feel like the best part of this tournament is that we got to watch De'Aaron Fox destroy Lonzo Ball. We got to watch a lot of Kentucky basketball for it as much as we got it. We got the Wichita State game.
We got the Florida-Wisconsin game. We got a double buzzer beater ridiculousness.
I mean, we got a few games, but I don't know.
You got to sort of puff out your chest. You said, listen, Chris Mack is a somebody.
I said a few things.
He said a few things. I really liked Florida State and was proven so wrong.
So wrong.
It was proven so very, very wrong, but they were also fun. But yeah, Chris Mack and Xavier, nobody thought much of them coming in, and they, of course, go far enough to get to the Elite Eight, and that's an impressive thing. You would like to honor North Carolina on this very final note in a very personal, special way. You would like to rank some people from the state of North Carolina.
Let me tell y'all about the best rappers.
Let's make it personal. How many do you have?
North Carolina. I mean, it's only about 5 unless you count somebody out of your cousin's basement or something like that.
Okay.
You know, so shout out to P.D. Pablo.
I don't know. We have funeral music.
We got funeral music, but it's cool. Shout out to P.D. Pablo.
Freak
shout
a
out to
Leak.
Ninth Wonder.
Wait, hold on. P.D. Pablo of the classic American cinema piece Drumline, I believe. P.D. Pablo, Freak a Leak at halftime. Yes, I'm sorry. Continue.
Shout out to Nick Cannon, who's also from the state of North Carolina. Shout out to.
Is he really?
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
These
Okay.
Wikipedia pages, they tell stories.
Okay.
Shout out to Jermaine Cole.
Okay.
A college basketball star himself. Shout out to King Mez for all you North Carolina folks.
That's so specific.
Right.
So very specific.
And my son Jermaine Dupree,
Of course.
who's allegedly also from North Carolina.
Size-wise, could be your son. Could be your son.
I mean, I'm taller than mostly everybody on this list, so it doesn't really matter.
So North Carolina versus South Carolina, and I'm putting you on the spot, and you don't have a list of South Carolina rappers in front of you. North Carolina, that list is pretty good.
I mean, I'll just take P.D. Pablo and raise up.
So, as everybody expected, we are ending Wake Up College Basketball's review of the national championship game. North Carolina is your champion. Roy Williams with a third national championship. North Carolina passes by Duke. And as we all expected, we end this saluting emphatically P.D. Pablo's relationship to the state of North Carolina. So,
North Carolina!
On that note, this gentleman is Tyler Tynes. My name is Dan Rubenstein. Wake Up College Basketball is presented by 4 Points, Travel Reinvented. Thank you all for watching.
It's been a good March, y'all. See you, America.
See you soon.